That sensitive at all. VA actually has no credit score minimum, unlike the others. Most of the time, what you'll find is the individual lending companies have a minimum credit score. Most of them won't touch anything over less than 500.
Well, hello and welcome to Uncommon Knowledge for Seniors. I'm your host, Jim Moran, a realtor and banking executive with over 35 years of experience. This podcast is your go-to resource for navigating the complex world of real estate and senior living transitions. Each week, we'll dive into topics and resources that matter the most to you, from retirement communities, real estate planning, reverse mortgages, trust, memory care, elder abuse, and more. And whether you're a senior, a family member, caregiver, or a real estate professional, we're here to provide you with the most valuable insights and practical, trustworthy advice from some of the best experts in the business. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Well, hello, and welcome to another session of Uncommon Knowledge for Seniors. Today we have an old friend, a dear old friend, or a very good friend, I guess I should say. Ron's been a loan officer for, I think, as long as anyone else in this business, and he's specifically strong in the VA realm, and it's something that's an expertise. It's something that he's committed himself to, and has done a great job with it over the years. And like we were just talking earlier, I've done a lot of VA loans over the years, and they've been just great. I mean, they've belied the bad rep that they've had, and hopefully we can get through and get past some of those myths and things like that. But Ron, thanks for being here. And how'd you get into this? How'd you find the VA niche? It's been a big deal.
Well, about 40 years ago, I started my career as a real estate broker, and I lived in an area where there was a number of veterans that were located in the area. My father is a World War II vet. My brother is a Vietnam vet, and I have other family members that were lifers in the military. So I kind of started doing first-time home buyer loans, and a lot of those first-time home buyer loans were veterans. And so that's how I kind of really loved the VA loan and the flexibility of the loan. And I found that there was so many myths surrounding the VA loan that I decided to, in my career, starting as a real estate agent, then transferring over into the mortgage world, I decided to make it my specialty. Government loans have always been my specialty. Government loans, grants, and down payment assistance.
I know you're even teaching classes on it now, aren't you? VA?
Yes, I am a certified instructor with Veterans Association Real Estate Professionals. I've been teaching VA classes to not only real estate agents, but also to lenders, my competitors. And I've been doing that for years and years and years, like 30 some years.
So one of the myths I know I've heard that someone who has a VA loan thinks they can't get another one. Is that what's up with that?
That is a myth. So you can get as many VA loans as you have entitlement for. For instance, if you buy a home and you have a certain amount of entitlement and you don't use that entire entitlement, you can keep that home, let's say, for a rental, and use the balance of that entitlement, and then the VA will times it by 4%. And so you could buy a home 4 times the amount of the entitlement that you have left with zero down. Once you pay off that loan, your full entitlement is restored. So you can just keep buying VA loan after, using a VA loan program and buying houses. I knew someone that used the VA loan that was started in the military, and he would buy a principal residence wherever he was stationed at. And then every time he got transferred to another duty station, then he would rent out the old house and buy another VA loan. And then when he used up all of his entitlement, he refinanced all those homes into a conventional. So that by the end of his service time, I think he owned like 30 houses.
Wow. So what determines entitlement? Is it rank? Is it time and service? Is it what?
No, it's the same for everyone. The original entitlement was 144,000. They've now increased it to it is was always like the maximum loan amount was the Fannie Mae loan amount, which currently is about 750. But 4 years ago, with the Blue Water Act, they removed the maximum loan limit. So if you wanted to get a loan for $3 million or $4 million and pay zero down, you can do it with a VA loan as long as you find a lender that that has an investor that will loan that much. But the entitlement is usually was is so for instance, if you already used your VA loan, then you're looking at probably about 750,000 is the maximum if you already have an existing one.
And that entitlement is the amount what the VA guarantees. Is that how that?
Yes, what they do is the VA will guarantee 25% to the lender. So it makes the VA loan a lot safer for the lender versus doing private mortgage insurance or FHA insurance.
The other thing's always been the appraisal and conditions and things like that. And in my experience, maybe I was just lucky, but I never had the value issues. I never had the condition issues that you hear about. And sometimes I wonder if there's just fairy tales, in terms of that. And I it just hasn't been my experience with that. And once the veteran earns it and got it and has all this paperwork and all that kind of thing together, they've gone together pretty well.
Well, once again, the appraisal issues, in my opinion, is still a myth. I think the VA appraisal is the easiest. If you don't come in at value, the VA actually has a process. I'll compare it against conventional or FHA. If you have a low appraisal, the only thing you can do is request a reconsideration of value. With the VA loan, the first thing they do is if it's going to come in low, and with conventional FHA and the others, you don't know it's low until the appraisal finishes the appraisal and sends it to the lender. With the VA, if the appraiser determines that he or she can't make value, they enact something called Tidewater, which then the lender and the veteran is notified that there's 48 hours to provide the appraiser with comps that could possibly help the appraiser come in at value. If that doesn't work, then the second step would be the lender would do a reconsideration of value. And then in certain instances that I've seen over the years, there's a third step where the veteran would contact the VA and say, hey, I understand that I'm buying a house for 300,000 and only appraised for 280,000. But this is why I want to buy it, because it's in this school district that we want our kids in. It's easy commute for me where I'm commuting now. Or they give, if there's some valid reasons, the VA can come back and say, okay, we'll go ahead and they'll issue the notice of value and without changing the value, and you get the loan.
So is that conversation with the underwriter and VA, or is it both, or is it the?
It's both. It's this process. So you would go through the VA the processor. It's not a VA processor. That's another myth. Is like it's a the underwriter and the appraiser is someone that's approved by VA in order to appraise a property or underwrite the loan. So, but yeah, it's a process, and it's quite spelled out that, so if you got a good loan officer that can help you develop the case, or a good real estate agent that can find the comps, and so you have a much better chance of overturning a low appraisal with a VA loan than you do a conventional or FHA.
Is there any age limit on getting a loan?
There is no age limit. Well, actually, there is. You have to be either 18 years
Oh
old or
yeah,
emancipated.
that side. Yeah.
So if you're 116, you're good to go,
Okay.
even for a 30-year loan.
Even especially for a 30-year loan. Yeah. Well, that's been, the entitlement thing, I think, is a bigger deal that keeps folks from maybe even exploring the VA loan. It's like, I got one years ago and I can't get one now, and end of story.
Well, that's the importance of seeking out and talking to a loan officer that understands the VA program.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, how about credits now? Say for closing costs and that thing, that's changed too, right? Isn't that a
Yes. As I think I mentioned earlier, um, that a lot of in the past sellers didn't want to sell a veteran a house because they had to pay usually the discount fees because the years ago the VA used to set the interest rate. Now it's just market rate. It's the same rate that you would get with a FHA loan or similar to that. So they don't set the rate anymore. The seller doesn't have to pay the points. They don't have to pay the lender's fees, and they don't have to pay a full escrow fee. So basically, the veteran can pay all of those, which makes it just as competitive as an FHA or a conventional loan as far as closing costs go. And then obviously the advantage is the zero down in most cases. Um, there's another myth that only a veteran or a veteran and their spouse can get a VA loan, but a veteran and a non-veteran or more than one non-veteran can get a VA loan. The only difference is that the veteran's portion is there's no down payment. The non-veteran would have to pay a down payment of 25% of their share. What I mean by that is 100. Like if you have three borrowers, one is a vet, two are not vets. So the veterans 100,000 share would be 100,000. So there's no bound payment on that. And then the other two borrowers would have to pay 25% on each their 100,000 share. So basically, in that scenario, there would be a down payment of 12.5%.
So they could be non-related co-borrowers then.
Yes, as long as they occupy the property.
So what would that look like, say, on that $300,000 house? What kind of down payment would that?
It would be $12,500.
Okay.
If my math is correct, I don't have my calculator with me. So 12.5% would be what, $25,000, I guess.
So that's a big deal. And property wise, it could be a fourplex or triplex or duplex or
Yes,
something like
the VA will. Yes, the VA will. You can buy uh, a fourplex and live in. You have to live in one unit, and then you can rent out the other three units.
So like three guys could go together and buy a house, or three women, or combination thereof, and as long as they can prove they're going to live in it, and
Yes,
they can fly.
and then there's one other option um, for the VA loan for zero down would be a surviving spouse, and that is someone a surviving spouse of a veteran who died on active duty or as a result of a service connected disability. They may be eligible to get a VA loan. That is why it's so important before you start looking for a house is to get pre-approved where the lender can get your certificate of eligibility, because that's going to tell the lender a couple of things. If you're eligible for a VA loan, if you have all your entitlement or only a portion of your entitlement, and then also it'll also tell you if you have VA disability, how much that is per month.
Oh,
So those are
that could turn out to be better than you think, right? I mean,
yes, because if you're getting disability, if you have a disability, then your funding fee is waived. So that can save the veteran a few $1,000s if they don't have to pay a funding fee on top of the loan. You can finance it or pay it in cash, but it's still a savings.
it's amazing. So how about assuming a VA loan? Can that still be done?
Yes, with a caveat. I always say. Um, if you're if you have a VA loan and you want someone to assume it, if a veteran assumes it, then all what you need to have them do is to use their entitlement and release yours. But if you sell to a non-vet, they can still assume it, but that's going to tie up your entitlement, which affects how much of another house that you can get with zero down. And then also, if they don't make payments or goes in foreclosures, that can come back on you as the veteran. So to me, it seems important that you understand that. And obviously, the safest way is to allow another veteran to assume your loan and use their entitlement.
So let's say husband and wife, obviously the veteran, let's say the veteran's the guy, the wife is not a veteran. They can combine their incomes to qualify, right? It's not.
Yes, a husband and a wife, or a wife and a husband, or
Yeah.
yeah, it, the veteran plus their spouse, it can do a VA loan with zero down, or like I said, a a, a surviving spouse if they have. So once again, that's important that if you have a surviving spouse or even any veteran, that you get the certificate eligibility. Lenders can get that for you. So you can get them online now. It's not like we have to mail off for them. And in some cases, you can't get them online. So we would need your DD 214, which is your discharge papers, to send that to the VA to get your certificate eligibility. And usually, the only reasons that I've seen that you can't get a certificate eligibility is a number of years ago, one of the VA sites burned down when it was all paper copies. And then also, if you're a World War II vet or a Civil War vet, it might be a little harder. But so um, it depends on how, if the VA has that, they have the records, but sometimes you just can't get the certificate eligibility quickly, like online.
Well, that surviving spouse could be a big thing now too. And what else was I going to ask you? How about the in-service VA? Like you're stationed in someplace, you want to buy a house. Is that
Yes.
viable?
Um,
Is it any easier?
yes, it's viable. But once again, it's important that you go to someone that knows what they're doing, because unlike like we get paycheck stubs, the active duty member will get what they call a leave and earning statement, LES. And on there, it has different pay grades for if they're, their regular pay, base housing, if they're, you know, combat pay. It's important that the lender knows how to know which incomes to use. Otherwise, you can get approved for whatever's on your LES and then come to find out that you can't use all that income. So, and then the other thing is if they're uh, so with a VA loan, you have to occupy within 60 days. But if you're deployed, that not or you're somewhere 6,000 miles away, that may not be viable. So one important thing where I've seen a lot of times that the closings get delayed is because you have to get a alive and well statement from the commanding officer that it might be in Iraq or somewhere. So knowing that you have to get that ahead of time, um, those are little things that little nuances with the VA loan that you kind of need to know without slowing down the process.
So it sounds like, as with many things, it's not a problem if you know what you're doing, right? Isn't that sort of the thing?
Well, yeah, it kind of helps.
Have you had to resurrect some of these things from someone that's maybe had a bad experience and just didn't get the right help and that kind of thing? Or is that?
Yes, I get phone calls all the time from other real estate agents and sometimes lenders going like, "Hey, I need your help." So they'll call and have me help them. They might be going through Navy Federal Credit Union or another lender, and then sometimes uh, I just get the loan like 10 days before it's actually supposed to close, and so and to resurrect and get it closed, which those are always fun because it's already been drug out, and then you're 10 days from closing and everybody's anxious, and so those are always fun. But yes, I get calls all the time. I don't mind answering questions. I prefer to answer them before you put them into escrow though.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure, for sure. So geographically, can you do these nationwide, or what's the
oh
limits on?
uh uh yes, on the in the states that I'm not licensed in, I have referral partners that I work with. So but yeah, they're in Oregon. um yeah, I can do any loan in Oregon, and then I have people, referral partners in other states. Because being a broker, we have to be licensed in certain, you
Mhm.
have to be licensed in the state that you do business in. If you want, one size fits all, then you can go to a bank because they're not required to have a state license, so they can generally. But most even banks only allow loan officers to do loans in their contiguous states in most cases. Um, so yeah, we can certainly help out in any state. And generally, what I do if I get a referral is I'll go ahead and look at do the pretty much do the setting up the file, making sure that it's going to work before I hand it off to the other person. So I'm really really hands on.
So how sensitive is VA to credit scores, like history?
Not that sensitive at all. VA actually has no credit score minimum. uh, Unlike the others. Most of the time, what you'll find is the individual lending companies have a minimum credit score. Most of them won't touch anything over less than 500.
Mhm.
Um, and some of them are the most common one I see is 580. But yeah, I mean, if you got a credit score in the 500s, what may happen, you may not get what they call an automated underwriting approval. You may have to do what they call a manual underwrite, kind of like how we used to approve loans, as you remember, Jim, back in the prior to the mid 90s, where the loan officer structured the file, and then we sent it off to a live underwriter to review the file and make a decision on it based upon how we set up the file. And so and of course there's guidelines for that. You may need cash reserves. I'll give you an example of I had a couple of years ago. I got a phone call from another lender saying, "Hey, I can't help this person. Can you help this person?" Uh, and I call the borrower. We sent out. He comes in the office. We sent out. He had just recently been incarcerated for 25 years. He was living in a homeless shelter, and so he had no job. The only thing he had was like his social security income. And so I was able to put together a loan file, and it was manually underwritten. I used the Oregon bond loan, which has you can do a VA loan through the Oregon bond loan, and it has less than market rate. So he got like 3/4 off on the rate. I don't remember at the time. He also got 3% down towards his closing costs with this loan. We were still short funds to close, so I went to the local nonprofit, and they found me a grant for $15,000. So we structured that, and then unfortunately, that what the house that he was buying was over the Oregon bond sales price limit. So I went to the seller and we met for coffee and we discussed it. And the seller goes like, hey, this guy served our country, and yeah, I want to help out. So we actually lowered the sales price to the Oregon bond limit. And so we got a veteran who was homeless, off the street into his own home.
Wow. That
And
could
those are
happen more often.
those are the kind of deals I love doing.
Yeah, for sure. God, Ron, I guess it's back to that whole thing of just being in front of somebody that knows what they're doing to be able to put all the pieces together. But, frankly, that's true on any loan, whether it's VA or I think obviously more so with VA, but it seems like the chances of it going together are probably better than with a conventional loan in some ways. But
Yes, I love VA because of their flexibility, and I would say for seniors is some of the things. Sometimes when you retire, you end up with less income than when you were working, which sometimes can be a challenge. With the VA loan, like they, instead of using 15% grossing up your non-taxable income, they'll use 25%. We can use investment income and to qualify people with, and so there's a lot of flexibility to the loan that would, I think, is key to helping seniors get the loan. And I mentioned the Oregon bond loan. That is actually a first-time home buyer's loan, but they waive the first-time home buyer requirement for veterans. So it doesn't matter whether you own 1 or 10 homes, you still can get into the program if you meet their qualifications. And then one thing that is rarely known, so even if you don't need the zero down, is the state of Oregon is only one of 5 states, and actually only 4 of the states have an active loan program, is that we have the ORVET loan. So the state will actually make a veteran a loan. The only difference is they require 5% down payment, but the interest rate is lower, below market rate. It's a conventional loan, not a government loan. And so you can get in for a lower rate than you can with a conventional loan. Because a lot of times veterans that have 20 or 30 or 40% to put down, they'll just go into a conventional loan. I don't know why, but the ORVET loan gives you an option to do the conventional loan with a lower than market interest rate, and it's a conventionally underwritten loan and appraised conventionally. And one thing that a lot of people don't know, they will go to 100% loan to value, but it has to be like in the form of a second mortgage. So if the seller wanted to carry 5% back, the veteran can still get in for zero down. And the one thing I will say about the ORVET, just like the federal VA, their underwriting is so flexible. They make a decision on each loan, on each individual loan.
It's refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, and not many lenders offer that program, but it is one of the greatest programs for veterans. I think the veterans have a lot of, between the Oregon bond, the ORVET, and the federal VA, you have so many good choices in order to obtain a loan.
And that's not every lender is going to have that, right? I mean, you're not going
to
find that at a bank. You're not going to find it at some of the different mortgage companies. You really got to be at least conversant about that to where you can say, right, do you have these programs, and is that something you can do, and all that.
Yes, it pays to to get referrals and references and shop around.
Cool. Well, Ron, we're just about at the end of our rope here, but I want to thank you for doing this. I know we could talk all day about this. I know it's such a
well, I can.
I know you can, and certainly appreciate your time with this because it's incredibly valuable. What's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to do that?
You can call me at 541-390-9542, or you can text me at that number, or you can email me at ron.smith@guildmortgage.net.
I caught that this morning, so thank you.
Yeah, sometimes people just do .com and they go like, "Why didn't you answer my email?" Didn't get it.
Well, Ron, thank you, and I wish you the best, and we'll talk again soon, and keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for allowing me to be on your program and spreading the word, because that's what I'm all about, spreading the word
That's what
about
we try
VA.
to do too. So
I appreciate your efforts.
thanks again, Ron.
Thanks, Jim. Have a
Yep.
good day.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Uncommon Knowledge for Seniors. I hope you found the information valuable and inspiring. And if you have topics or circumstances you'd like us to address, please let us know. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and visit our website. We're at www.uncommonknowledgeforseniors.com for more resources and to schedule a confidential consultation. And until next time, I'm Jim Moran, reminding you to embrace your next chapter with confidence and clarity. Take care.